Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Fight Night Milwaukee, or I believe the last UFC on Fox card. Kevin Lee versus Iaquinta 2. Rematch from Kevin Lee's first fight in the UFC, I believe, where he took on Iaquinta on short notice. Came in pretty good prospect. Al humbled him. They come back. There's been a lot of improvements and stuff. Things that me and Cody will talk about in the rematch because, you know, there's an interesting line here. We're going to wait before we get to that, though, obviously. We're going to break down every single fight, as is tradition here. But before we get to any of that, we have a winner from last week. This dude has the most MMA name of all time, or his or DK handle, I guess. He is Broseph, B-R-O-S-E-P-H 69.
Nice.
Congratulations, Broseph 69.
It's Broseph with a PH. Is that what it is?
Yes. Love it.
I like it.
His name is Joseph, I would imagine.
I don't know if that's true.
He is to me, damn it.
Okay.
Broseph 69, you are the winner of last week's challenge. Congratulations to you. This week's challenge. So, number one, give the episode a like. Nothing can be possible without giving the show a like. 2, leave us your DraftKings handle. And number 3...
Yeah, okay. So as you can see from the contest giveaways, sometimes there's a theme, sometimes there's not. This is more of a question. Something that I don't know why is bothering me, but it seems like I'm in the minority of this opinion, and that, in fact, bothers me. But this goes down to a conversation I had with a friend of mine, Andrew, and then we talked about it at Pat Mayo's, was that a baby shower for a guy? What's a diaper party? Is that a baby shower for a guy?
Pat broke the news, so you're allowed to say it now.
Okay.
He broke it on his show yesterday.
Ooh,
otherwise,
good
we would have to
thing.
we would have to edit this out. So Pat is having a kid.
Okay, well, so here's the question. Here's the debated question. You goofs all think that a baseball bat is a superior weapon to a knife in a one-on-one combat situation. I don't know.
You were arguing about this.
There was like 3
while
people
we were
that
together.
were taking baseball bat. I have no idea. Listen, the bat's got 1 strike. Everyone says, listen, the bat's got multiple strikes. You got to wind it back to move it forward. That small opportunity, you are getting stabbed. The knife is a superior weapon. So in the comment section, just let us know, what is the superior weapon one-on-one? Martial arts skills may or may not be involved. I don't care. One-on-one, you versus somebody in the street. Are you taking the baseball bat? Or are you taking the knife?
So if you're trying to get yourself an assault charge, would you rather have a knife or a baseball bat? That's what Cody's asking.
No. This is a part of my argument. The baseball bat is an assault charge. The knife is a murder charge, Holmes. It's a one and done. You stab the guy 1 time, it's game over.
Me and you were...
That bat, you could potentially block the first strike, shatter your forearm. Yes, that sucks, but then stab him with the free hand and you're good.
Me and you were actually in Mayo's, like, the backyard, the little parking lot there.
Yeah.
We were actually enacting. You pretended that you had a knife. I pretended I had a baseball.
And I killed you, homie.
Dude, I knocked your head off.
Oh my! You were way drunker than you were way drunker than I thought. You would have been
so concussed.
Well, leave it in the comment section. Leave it in the comment section. What is the superior weapon? Let's say it's the jungle.
The answer is a baseball bat.
The jungle's there. Nobody's gonna check if it's a homicide. Nobody's gonna scream for help. Would you rather the knife or the baseball bat? Leave it in the comment section. Plus your DK handle, plus the like of the show, and you can get some DK bucks.
A little bit more nonsense before we get into it. We like to talk about what is the home cooking. What are they brewing up in whatever place that the UFC takes their circus.
And that could be important in a close fight like Jordan Griffin's.
Doing a little bit of research leading into this one. I can understand why the state of Wisconsin is kind of messed up. You know, you've seen Making a Murderer and all that stuff, and the Dassies and the Tadiches. Like, there's something a little bit off. There's something in the water there, as people like to say. One of the things that they eat there is called a cannibal sandwich.
Stephen Avery.
It's raw ground beef, man. Like, it's actually raw ground beef. People get sick from it. Yeah, they put onions, raw ground beef, and they put it on rye toast.
Now, you're saying...
A cannibal sandwich. It's literally raw ground beef on a piece of bread.
That's not their signature dish. Dude, that's just some weird thing you can get.
You can get at Packers games, apparently.
I'm sure you could get weird things on the Peru card that you failed to bring up. Or anytime we go to South America, for that matter. Why don't you bring up weird dishes there, Paul? Chad Joe had a great point when you were like, what's the dish, like, if there is going to be home cooking? You're saying this cannibal sandwich. It has to be cheese. Are the cheese
Of course, everyone.
yeah,
but I mean...
Okay, so if I smell that
cannibal
fromage,
sandwich is a thing that people do there.
Okay,
It sounds incredibly dangerous, first off.
You know what else is dangerous? Fist fighting. You know what else could potentially be dangerous, depending on how you go?
Eating a cannibal sandwich before you go fist fighting.
Ooh, yeah, I would imagine that wouldn't sit well. Last point, then we can get into the fights. What would probably be an even worse decision, might be dangerous for your health, is having a gambling addiction. So if you know somebody that has one, you can go ahead and drop your line here.
Yes, odds and lines are subject to change. See website for actual odds. If you or anybody you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Okay, now let's get down to the action.
Lightweight division. Kevin Lee takes on Iaquinta. Second time these guys have fought. Kevin Lee, 9,000 on DraftKings, -300 favorite. Iaquinta, 7,200 and +250. We saw this fight before. Kevin Lee was not what he is now. He has made so many leaps and bounds, improvements, all of that type of stuff. But Iaquinta is no slouch. This line seems a little bit too wide to me. It all depends on your personal betting preference, to be perfectly honest. Do you like taking punts on big underdogs? Because I think the value is squarely set on Iaquinta in this spot. He's coming off of 5 rounds against Khabib. Now, all that being said, I am of the opinion that Khabib was just toying with him in rounds 3 and 4.
Working on his striking a bit.
Working on his striking a bit after securing maybe 2 10-8s in rounds 1 and 2. And then he, rolled through in round 5 to ensure that there is no way he could possibly lose the fight. But Iaquinta, he's a tough out on any given night. He's very, very durable. He hits very, very hard. He's got good wrestling. He's a pretty all-around good guy. Like, he's a perennial top 10-ish kind of guy. You beat Iaquinta, you deserve to be in the top 10. There's no question about whether Kevin Lee deserves to be in the top 10 at this point. The guy's got all the goods. He's got the wrestling. He's got the strike. His striking is ever evolving.
Yeah, getting better.
Everything is kind of coming together. His top game is probably second best in the lightweight division, second best to the GOAT, Mr. Khabib Nurmagomedov.
They're on your boy Gregor Gillespie already.
They're giving Kevin Lee the Khabib treatment now. It's like Khabib breaks somebody, and then Kevin Lee comes in to clean up the mess afterwards, right? It's like that's kind of what they're doing with him, and I think it's all heading towards eventually Khabib and Kevin Lee fighting. It's a fight that Kevin Lee has asked for a long time. I just know that Kevin Lee's durability. We can never forget about getting knocked out by Santos. Like, he got knocked out by a jiu-jitsu guy.
When you say that he's changed a lot since the Iaquinta fight, the same debate has to be made here since the Santos fight. And
I agree. He's made improvements and stuff, but like that doesn't mean that Iaquinta can't land a heavy on him and render him unconscious. Like if this was a straight pick'em, of course I'm on Kevin Lee, but
you're seeing some value.
I think plus 250. I just think that's way too wide. Like this could be pretty competitive, and I don't think Iaquinta is he's definitely a live dog here.
Yeah.
I pick is Kevin Lee, but the value is squarely on Iaquinta.
Yeah, I hear exactly where you're coming from. The issue is that I made almost all those points in Kevin Lee's last fight against Edson Barboza. Here's a guy in Kevin Lee that's young. He's developing, but one thing, his wrestling's gotten better. His top game, his jiu-jitsu's gotten better. His striking's gotten better. He himself, since that last fight against Iaquinta, is almost twice the size. He's so big. And I really think that he struggled in the Tony Ferguson fight. It looks like he's got a staph infection. He has a bad weight cut. He shows up to the fight, and he looks tremendous in the first round. He mounts Tony Ferguson at the end of the first round. Second round, he's out of gas. And if you look at his entire string of victories leading up to the Tony Ferguson fight, first and second round finishes. Maybe he's a bit of a front runner. Maybe he's going in there, he's using that size. They're all bad weight cuts, I'm sure, when you're that big. And he gets you out of there quick, and if he doesn't, you can work your way back into it. He gassed out against Tony Ferguson. He loses. So going into the Barboza fight, the thought is it's still going to be a bad weight cut. He's still going to be this big guy that's probably going to fade after a couple of rounds. And Barboza is a durable enough guy that he's going to be hanging around long enough that he'll be able to work his way back into the fight. And I just didn't see it happening. He landed that one big strike that had Kevin Lee completely on skates. But I mean, you know what? He recovered fairly quickly. He got the takedown. As soon as he got the takedown, Barboza had nothing for him. He did not tire. He went hard 5 rounds. A couple of those are 10-8s in the mix. He looked extremely dominant. If that exact same Kevin Lee comes out here, he's going to be able to get the takedown against Iaquinta. He's going to be able to dominate him on the ground, and he's probably going to be able to do the exact same thing. Maybe not finish him, because Al's a tough guy, and as you mentioned, you know, just coming off a 25-minute performance against Khabib, who's a guy that does the same thing, takes you down, puts that pressure on you. Yeah, he's durable. He's a BJJ brown belt, pretty good chin, submission defense checks out. I could see him surviving, but it should be fairly one-way traffic. What a lot of people fail to realize too is that we're interested in this rematch, but this wasn't a rematch that was on anybody's radar. Because as you mentioned, Iaquinta, there's an argument there that he's a top 15, but there's you cannot deny the fact that we have Kevin Lee's probably a top 5 guy. If not, he's in that mix. If they open up a 165-pound division, he's a front runner for a top 5 guy in that division. As far as 55 goes, he's probably a top 3 or 4 guy in the division as well. So I find it hard to think that Iaquinta always complaining about money, bad knee, bad shoulder, you know, pulled out of his last fight after the Khabib fight against Justin Gaethje because he claims money, but I heard injury. And, you know, he's a little bit older, 32. I think Kevin Lee's 26. They're completely different guys at this point. You got Iaquinta who's selling real estate, who will take the big fight against Khabib on short notice if the paycheck's right. But beyond that, like, it's almost a 1 foot out the door kind of scenario. Whereas Kevin Lee, 26 years old, one of the top guys in the division. For 9,000, you know what?
I think
he's going to get the takedowns.
I don't
he's going to
mind
get a lot of ground and pound.
DraftKings pricing, I'm fine with that.
It's just the
minus 300, no thank you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's a fist fight. And you're right. We have seen Kevin Lee knocked out by Santos. We saw Edson Barboza have a little bit of a glimmer of, man, you can hit this guy. You can hurt this guy. You can drop his equilibrium. Yeah, Raging Al, if he's in the fight for 25 minutes and he's throwing heavies periodically throughout those 25 minutes, he's got a shot. And if you are a punt play kind of guy, $7,200 is a nice price. The 250, if it was a little bit better, and it might get a little bit better, I can see where you're coming from. But my pick's going to be Kevin Lee on this one.
We have Dan Hooker taking on Edson Jr. Barboza. Dan Hooker is 8,200 on DraftKings, minus 105. Edson Barboza is 8,000 and minus 115. So Barboza, the slight favorite. It's pretty much a pick 'em. How do you see this one shaking out, Cody?
You know, I think there's a lot of hype on Hooker, and, you know, rightfully so. He's got a string of very exciting knockouts over proven durable veterans. He looks like he's on fire. His entire camp could make the argument that you don't want to bet against these guys. Israel Adesanya, tremendous, but maybe a little bit of hype there. Daniel Hooker, tremendous. Maybe a bit of hype there. That kid, Cara France, looks very solid, but maybe a little bit of hype there. And Alex Volkanovski, very deservedly so. That guy's worth his weight in gold.
I was thinking about, to sidetrack you for a second, if he gets through Mendez...
Oh yeah,
like,
and then there's the real.
Then him versus Holloway has to happen. If he's able to, if he lands, I was thinking about this literally last night. That's why I have to talk about. If he knocks Mendez out on the feet, I'm not as convinced. If he's able to implement the game plan that he has against Chad Mendez. He may be able to beat Holloway, but we have to see that fight first. I love that match, but continue on your way.
All I'm saying is clearly there's something in the water in New Zealand. And I'm not steroid reference. I just mean these guys have got it going on. Like that's a tremendous little camp that they got set up there. And Hooker's reaping the benefits. Part of that benefit is that guys like you and I and a lot of people are talking about the fact that he's got these, you know, high-profile training partners. And maybe that's the reason why you give him a lot of love. Edson Barboza is proven. He's been through the ringer. He's fought the best guys. Technically speaking, he seems like he's probably a little bit better standing. The low kick game is going to be a big weapon considering Hooker's got a long, lanky frame. Even money against Edson Barboza really seems like Edson's the play. The issue I'm having, and maybe I'm just buying too much into it, is that Edson Barboza has taken a lot of
damage the last couple of fights.
Life-changing beatings. And if you notice the trend with Hooker, Hooker's beating guys that are tough too, that have also taken just a plethora of beatings. Ross Pearson's taken beatings. Jim Miller's taken beatings. These guys have they've been through the ringer.
For sure.
And eventually it's going to crack. Eventually that knee to the face is going to put you out. And as dynamic as Barboza is, and he can do just, you know, the flying knee against Beneil Dariush, just the ability to wear some of these fights, the damage he accumulates. The Michael Johnson fight argued that he took a bad beating there. It's the Khabib fight and the Kevin Lee fight and back-to-back outings, whereas Khabib put it on him and he really showed a lot of heart to survive. And then exact same situation, Kevin Lee's putting it on him. Kevin Lee's not as good as Khabib, just like you're saying with Iaquinta. Oh, well, dude, Barboza's a guy that lasted 20, he went the distance, not 25, sorry, but he lasted the distance. Kevin Lee just, because he's breaking down maybe a little bit. He's been through a lot of wars. That's a bad spot to be against Hooker. So as much as I don't want to bet against Barboza, and it's probably leaning towards a pass, the 8,200 on Hooker, in that he could definitely come in here and take advantage over shop-worn goods and get the victory. It's not a bad price at all, and he's got high upside in that he could potentially get the finish.
I hear you. I do lean Barboza. Like, this is a tricky one, obviously. I like Barboza. I just think he's the better technical striker.
I agree with that.
But as a DraftKings play, you're kind of onto something. Barboza, if the line continues to move the way that it is, Barboza is probably going to end up being the stone cold chalk on this card because obviously he's a relatively cheap option and he's a favorite.
Yeah,
the line is flipped. And Hooker probably does have the higher ceiling in terms of like maybe he just goes out there, lands a dirty knee up the middle as he's apt to do, or something like that, or finds a way to get it to the ground. Maybe he's got an advantage on the ground. Barboza does have like very, very elite takedown defense against anybody not named Khabib Nurmagomedov or Kevin Lee.
It keeps the fight standing, then he could piece this kid up. But
I haven't completely. I've been flip-flopping a bit, but
you know what?
Tough one, man.
Looking at someone trying to analyze where they're at in their career is a super tough thing. Yeah. You look back a couple fights and you got Nogueira versus Sam Alvey. You know, a lot of the talk there is that, well, we know Alvey's not going to do shit, but it'd probably be enough against a shop-worn Nogueira. And he looks vintage Nogueira. Shogun did not look vintage Shogun. He took a shit kicking in the early going, but the skill set's still there. They're superior fighters.
For sure.
But you see a guy like Renan Barão, who's not as chinny as Shogun or Nogueira. It's that the accumulative damage, maybe not being chinny and not going out when you should have, has just led to his reflexes being slower. And Barboza's a reflex-based fighter, you know what I mean? Like, he's dynamic, he's fast, he's got the wheel kick, and I'm not ready to write him off quite yet. I mean, he did land the one strike against Kevin Lee. He did have maybe about 2 minutes of success against Khabib. He's shown toughness at the most elite of levels.
For sure.
And I think that Hooker might be, not a hype job, but he's certainly benefiting from his current situation. So probably one that you avoid, but the price is very tempting. And because if Barboza wins, I could see him winning striking exchanges and winning a decision. But if Hooker wins, I could see him landing something that maybe puts Barboza down.
Yeah.
So for that reason,
Hooker
I think
may be a
extra
better DraftKings play because Barboza maybe, if he wins, it's probably a 3-round decision. And who knows with that guy though too? He could land a spinning back kick and put him out of his consciousness as well. It is super hard at this exact moment in time. I am picking Barboza, but man, I may flip flop on that. I'm not sold yet.
Yeah. I don't know if I would call it the most closely contested fight on the entire card, because maybe it doesn't shape up that way. Yeah. But certainly on paper, it's like hard to get a good lean either side, right?
Yeah, off we go to the bantamweight division. We have Rob Font taking on Sergio Pettis. Rob Font, 8,400 on DraftKings and -170 favorite. Sergio Pettis, 7,800 plus 150. Who you got?
Yeah, I don't mind the fact that Pettis is a dog money in Milwaukee. I'm not the highest up on Rob Font. I know he's got the skills, but he's almost in many ways kind of a lot like Sergio Pettis. Like, I'm sure they want to keep this fight standing. I'm sure both guys is a pretty technical striker. They both got okay chins. I give the advantage over Rob Font.
Font has the power advantage.
Font's not only got the power advantage, but Pettis moving up from 125 to 135.
Sure.
I've never really liked him at 135.
No.
Back in the day, he actually fought in Winnipeg against Kyle Vivian. You remember Kyle Vivian? He was having a smoke.
Smoking cigs outside of the hotel.
Yeah, and that Slam 1 card. Kyle Vivian gave him like everything he could handle for 1 round on the ground. And it wasn't because Kyle Vivian's any good on the ground. It's because he was fighting at 135, you know. Kyle Vivian's 5'4". He's a little short, stubby guy. And as far as just laying, he got up and he kicked him in the head and won. Don't get me wrong, but the size has been an issue. And when he came to the UFC, he tried out 35 very briefly. And that fight with Bruce Leroy, he's a big favorite. Everybody likes him. He's Anthony Pettis' little brother. He's going to make something happen here. And I don't know. I don't love him at 135 pounds. Now, at 125, he beats Joseph Benavidez. That's something. The UCR Formiga fight, bad matchup, you know what I mean? Like, Formiga's got a way of doing that to people. He's made an entire career out of it, and it's kind of a bad matchup. And now, if this same fight's at 125, they're just giving him a pure striker and a one-on-one, I'd be inclined to favor him. But going up to 135 and taking on somebody that does a lot of the same things that you do, tough. Plus 150 is very tempting, though. The $7,800 in DraftKings, I don't want it, because I just don't see Pettis finishing this fight. And even if it's a striker's delight, again, I don't see him landing upwards of 70 strikes. So
not a very high volume type of guy.
Yeah, I'm not particularly interested in that. even on cash, there's just way too much risk. But the plus 150, as far as a card that has a lot of seemingly big favorites, you know, maybe they are smelling cannibal sandwich in the stands. Maybe they are smelling a little frog.
God, you stole my bit. I was about to go into that.
All I'm saying is that this actually should be a pretty well-matched competitive fight.
I agree.
Font might be the bigger power puncher, probably is. And he might land the bigger strikes, but maybe just get outstruck ever so slightly. You and I at home, most of the viewers at home would say, geez, I think Rob Font won that fight. And this fight takes place in Massachusetts. He probably does win that fight. But I don't know. I think it's close. I think it's close enough and in Milwaukee that maybe Pettis has got something. We don't want to see Pettis grappling. We know that's the way to beat him. But this shouldn't be that. So why not have the ever so smallest poke at plus 150? And beyond that, if you want to pass on it, probably not the worst.
I agree with you completely on this fight. I think, yeah, close competitive striking affair in the one guy's hometown.
Elias just got the job done.
And you're getting plus 150, and you're getting plus 150 on that side. I know size is a thing, but the one thing that does make me hesitate about Sergio Pettis is that he's a little bit more of a counter striker as well. We've seen Rob Font where he struggles the most. He's not very good at fighting off his back foot. If you are able to have that typical march forward style, Johnny Lineker absolutely. Johnny Lineker does that to so many people. Don't get me wrong.
Who can emulate that?
Having that style where you are marching forward, making this guy fight off his back foot, I'm sure he's working on that. He's probably improving on that. But that is the big hole that I've seen in the game. I thought maybe Thomas Almeida would be able to do that against Rob Font in their fight against each other, and he wasn't able to pull it off, but it's still there, I think.
You want to know?
I don't know if Sergio Pettis fights that style. I think if it's too, I think it will be Rob Font trying to march him down, and Sergio trying to counter.
Right.
So he does run the risk of getting caught by Font, who definitely has the more power from what I see. But yeah, plus 150, Sergio Pettis, you can do a lot worse.
Yeah, no, I agree. The flip side to that argument is the way to beat Font, back him up. Try to get aggressive with him and keep him on his back foot. I agree with that. And Sergio Pettis, geez, he's probably not going to do that because he's a counterpuncher. He wants to counterpunch. And if you look at Sergio Pettis' losses, Formiga and Henry Cejudo, even for the most part that Joseph Benavidez fight, because you got to factor in the wrestling, he's not doing what he wants to do, just counterpunch. Rob Font's style has come forward. So that actually plays in exactly to what Pettis wants. Pettis, yeah, he's not going to back him up around the ring probably, but he wants you to come at him and he wants to counterpunch you strictly in a striking-based style. He doesn't want you to come at him aggressively and try to take him down, hold him up against the cage, mix in the takedowns. He wants you to come at him and strike so he can try to pick off the weaknesses. They're both high-level strikers, high enough level strikers that it should be relatively closely contested. And for that reason, I'm saying dog or pass, Paul.
Ooh. We got Charles Oliveira taking on Jim Miller. Charles Oliveira, 8,900 on DraftKings, minus 320 favorite. Jim Miller, 7,300 and plus 260. Another fight that, you know, I love Charles Oliveira. He's so much fun, but he's got that quit in him. And we've seen it so many times. He is a dodgy guy. He's a GPP kind of guy.
For 8,900, you're going to play him all day.
Sure, but I think this is actually another tough matchup. Like, they've obviously fought before as well. And Miller came away with...
snatching him up with a knee bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Back when Charlie was only a brown belt.
Jim Miller has jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
He has... the jiu-jitsu to probably, well, we've seen Michael Chiesa submit him. So, like, if this goes to the ground, anything can really happen, to be perfectly honest, right? But Jim Miller, I think the one big thing about him recently is that he seems to be finally over the Lyme disease. Like, his last few performances, he definitely has more energy. I know he's getting old, and you hate old people.
No, that's not true.
You hate old
people.
That is
not true.
Cody's the absolute ageist on this podcast, but... I think 320 is too wide. Miller could very well like withstand the early onslaught from Charles Oliveira. Don't get submitted in the first 4 or 5 minutes and take over in rounds 2 and 3. Like, I don't think that that's out of the equation whatsoever. So if you had to force me to make a play on this, it would be Miller plus 260. As for DraftKings, I don't hate Miller as a 7,300 little play here either.
Yeah,
He just has to avoid that early onslaught. But Jim Miller's jiu-jitsu is no joke either. Like, I think he can keep himself out of trouble if he gets there. He could get subbed in the first round, but I think Jim Miller has finally kind of turned the corner in terms of his health issues and stuff.
Yeah, I just got to disagree with that point. I'm not disagreeing that Charles Oliveira is very easily exploitable. I don't doubt that there's glaring holes in his game. And yeah, maybe his heart's an issue, but I don't know that Jim Miller is just the guy, certainly not anymore, that's going to expose that. The last time they fought, you really can't take anything away from it. So long ago, just different fighters. But Jim Miller was known as like a grindy wrestler, but had a black belt. So he would get you down, and when he got you down, he was able to grind you. And I just don't really see that anymore. His last fight against Alex White, 100%. He got the takedown. He's able to take his back. He's able to choke him out. It looked like a vintage Jim Miller performance. But again, that's Alex White, and I don't know how much you can take away from that. When you say he's all the way recovered from his Lyme disease, he's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. That win against Alex White snapped a 4-fight losing streak. So Jim Miller is just not where Jim Miller needs to be at this point to fight a guy like Charles Oliveira.
Put on a decent performance against Poirier,
he did put on a decent performance against Dustin Poirier, and then he ran into Dan Hooker that knocked him out with that knee to the face. And then this is a guy that's built on his cast iron durability. You know, outside of the Donald Cerrone fight, how many times have you seen Jim Miller just cleanly beaten up like that? But again, you start to get older, and now he doesn't rely on his wrestling as much because he can't really get the takedowns as frequently as he used to. If you can't wrestle, yeah, he can get a takedown, but guys that are quick and agile and have decent footwork, they'll just get out of the way. As far as him being on the ground goes, decent top pressure. But the Chiesa fight, he was on top of Chiesa. Unfortunately, the longer these grappling exchanges goes, eventually Chiesa gets on top of him, and, well, he gives up the submission. I think Charles Oliveira, as far as the striking goes, and I think a good chunk of this fight will probably be spent standing, I think Oliveira is just faster and he's rangier, and he'll beat him striking. And then Miller will eventually get into gear and start grinding him and maybe get a takedown and hold him up. But if it goes to decision, 29-28 Oliveira. If it's a finish, it's going to be Oliveira. I don't think that Jim Miller is going to be able to put him away. And this is at 55, and as much as I like Charles Oliveira at 45, god damn, he looks good at 55 too. 3-1 in his last 4. Outside of the Paul Felder fight, who Paul Felder had to get out of all sorts of nasty situations. The other thing there is that Felder is like a proven finisher. Like, he's got that killer instinct. As soon as he landed that first elbow, he was like, oh, baby, you're mine. Whereas Jim Miller is not that guy. He doesn't have that ground and pound in his arsenal. Even if he does get Charles Oliveira to the ground, it's going to mostly be try to stifle this guy by holding him there. And it's hard to do that against Oliveira because he's so tricky. So I don't love it just because Charles Oliveira is a ticking time bomb. You do not know if he's going to blow up in your face. And at 320, you're not going to get a ton out of him. But with the 8,900 on DraftKings, I feel like you almost have to play that on certain lineups.
My trend on this card is that, like, some of these favorites, yes, I do agree that they should be favorites, but the lines, this feels like a dangerous card to just start parlaying a bunch of these favorites together. That's more or less what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. I just look back to the Charles Oliveira takes on a strong, grinding, big 55er in Will Brooks. Submits him. He takes on Clay Guida. Fuck, this guy goes on for days. Not the biggest 55er, but grinding type style. He submits him. Christos Giagos, man, this guy's gigantic. Like, he is thick. Gets him down and submits him. Those are all grinding type fighters, and he has his way with them. Felder is not that. Felder's a finesse striker that was able to overcome some early adversity, tire him out, and punish him. And punishing him is how you make him quit, not trying to grind him where he can just find an opportunity. So I'm going to go Oliveira. But you're right. The guy has proven in the past that he's not exactly...
He's not the kind of guy you want to lay these numbers on, because you will be sweating if he doesn't get to capitalize on a certain situation.
Flip side to that, if you're not a punt guy, Jim Miller at 7,300 is not a good play because unless you're a punt guy, 7,300, 7,300. But if he wins, I don't see the finish. And you talk about sweating for Charles Oliveira because he could blow it at any time. Betting against Charles Oliveira is also a sweaty situation because you got to deal with everything he throws out there. So I don't know.
He'll jump on his back in round 1 or whatever, and you will be terrified.
And he's probably thinking, no, this guy submitted me the last time. Try to do it again, buddy. I got something on my sleeve for you. Maybe it's a pride thing. I don't know.
Yeah, good points. We got Dwight Grant taking on a Zach Otto. Dwight Grant, 9,400 on DraftKings and a -300 favorite. Otto is 6,800 plus 250. Your take?
I mean, I just don't think you can go with Zach Otto. There's probably very few opponents in the UFC that you'd be comfortably taking Otto over. His wins in the UFC have just been like, especially in hindsight, have just been so lackluster. Like, he came in as that short notice underdog and beat Josh Berkman on a split decision. Berkman never won a fight again. Like, Berkman looked atrocious, all the way shot. really not all that impressive. That Kichi Kunamoto fight, damn, that was a close fight, man. And he gets a split decision out of it, but it's like, Kunimoto's not UFC caliber. He's since been released, fights in Japan now. And the Mike Pyle fight, he just can't take a punch.
And same with Josh Burke.
Yeah, and Berkman actually survived, but with Pyle, it's like, you know, eventually someone's going to hit him and he'll topple over. He retires immediately after the fight. You know how we always talk about guys that they're already thinking about it. It's already over for you. And then the Sage Northcutt fight, it's like, oh man, he has some early success. And then to get ground and pounded out by Sage Northcutt, extremely embarrassing. I don't know where his durability's at. I've always considered him more of a wrestler, but he's not. He's kind of like a brawling type stand-up fighter, get in your face. And I don't know that... Dwight Grant's very green, I think. Dwight Grant's a guy that throws a lot of loopy overhand rights, a sloppy left hook. But that kind of style, it's enough to take out Zach Otto at this point. How he'll progress through the ranks beyond this, I don't know. But from what we saw in Dana White's Contender Series fight is that the power's certainly there. If he hits you and he's able to hurt you, he'll capitalize. And the thing with Otto is that his chin's not exactly phenomenal. And I don't know that his path to victory is grind this guy and take him down. And if it is the same thing going to happen in the Sage Northcutt fight where you can do that for a round, but then after that you're tired? And this young kid that's small for the division, this young kid, that was at 55, I think. Yeah, anyways, this young kid in Sage Northcutt just outlasts you. Well, this guy in Dwight Grant, you know, he's a little older, he's a little more mature, he's got the power, he's got the finishing ability. I think he clips Otto at some point. $9,400 is very expensive for a guy that's green, so I would avoid it. I think there's some better plays on the card. -300, again, risky, but he's a 3-1 favorite for a reason here because Zach Otto is clearly on his way out, 3-3 in the UFC, hasn't looked particularly good, and Grant's a guy that you just signed, that you're trying to build a little bit up. It makes sense as far as matchmaking standpoint, and they clearly want Grant to get the victory. -300, again, risky. 9,400, not interested, but Grant should get the victory and probably put Zach Otto away.
Andrea KGB Lee takes on Jessica Rose Clark. Andrea Lee is 9,200 on DraftKings and a -245 favorite. Jessie Jess is 7,000 and +205. A hell of a year for Andrea Lee. Not all for all the great reasons, I'll tell you that much. You know, a lot of distraction, I would say, in the last 6 months for her coming into this. Obviously, her husband,
strange husband.
Were they married? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, her husband was kind of exposed for having Nazi tattoos, and then she defended him, saying that like, oh, he's not like that anymore.
Coach Donnie, who killed that guy and did the time in prison, who was a crooked cop. Oh no!
And everyone's kind of like, just cover them up, bro. We were actually on the show saying like, I'm no tattoo expert. I don't even have a tattoo, but just like, I reached out to Sean Carey Tattoo, guy on Twitter, MMA Better, who runs his own tattoo shop. He's just like, well, yeah, like you can cover that with literally anything that isn't a Nazi tattoo.
Listen, anybody who's ever watched Bellator on Paramount has been subject to many long commercials about fucking Ink Master, and yeah, you could turn it into whatever you want. The excuse of it would make me look real redneck to get
it's just like, you have a Nazi tattoo. You look like a redneck.
You are the epitome of redneck.
You look like a redneck piece of shit.
Like, from Louisiana, and he has redneck tattoos. What more could you want?
So then he went on a bit of a rampage. I can't even remember what happened recently, but he went on a bit of a rampage, and like she had like a domestic abuse case against him.
Yeah. The details are kind of strange. He was putting out
she's been kind of keeping
on her.
So it's fucked up. So now she's got to get ready for a fight camp.
As a single mother.
Yeah.
This guy was on the run apparently. I don't even know if they found him. I don't even know.
All these dramas all together makes me like Jessica Rose Clark, at least on DraftKings at 7,000. Like maybe we can get 3 rounds out of her. Maybe they're really, really close rounds.
Yeah.
And we keep it close. Andrea Lee's going to come in. She's going to try to go for the takedowns. She's going to try to secure them, and who knows. But like Andrea Lee's not fighting out of some sort of great camp here. She doesn't have the best group of people to be training with day in and day out. So I think you can do it far worse as a cheapie for roster construction than Jessica Rose Clark. She's somebody I'm probably gonna play, and maybe it doesn't play out, but hopefully we get at least 3 rounds out of her, and we'll take it from there. Yeah,
honestly, I couldn't agree more. As far as value plays on the card, I think you could do a lot worse than Jess Rose Clark. I'm not exactly the highest Clark fan. And in terms of skill for skill, I think that Andrea Lee is a superior fighter. And she rightfully should be the favorite, which she is. But yeah, there's path to victory here, and Jess Rose Clark could do exactly that. Rose Clark has kind of made a bit of a career out of coming in against potentially overhyped prospects and giving them a dirty go, man, because she's grindy. She's got a good frame for the division. She can push a pace, and she's just, she's big and strong, and that, to a certain extent, against a certain level of competition, can get you places. UFC debut against Beck Rawlings. Geez, Beck Rawlings, she's got all the tattoos. Everyone's behind her. She's in Australia, which Rose Clark's also from that area, but all the same, everyone's up on Beck Rawlings. Beck Rawlings is a tad bit undersized for the division, and Rose Clark just grinds her up. Second fight against Paige Van Zandt. Everybody loves Paige Van Zandt. It's almost the exact same thing. It's like, well, Rose Clark is a grindy type fighter, and she just grinds her down, eventually breaks her arm, and not the prettiest of victories. And that's when you see her subsequent fights, she's kind of getting exposed ever so slightly. But here's a situation with Andrea Lee, who's probably only a big favorite, this big of a favorite, because she's a mega babe. And without that, I think that she's still the favorite. Again, I think she's a better fighter skill for skill. But she gets a lot of hype because of her looks. And again, you talk about all the personal life stuff, single mother, her longtime boyfriend or husband, Don, he's on the run and he smacked you up. And her roommate, Andy Nguyen, who's the one that called the cops, apparently this used to happen all the time. Now she allows one of her training partners to live with her, and the training partner is the one that calls the cops. Yeah. So even though that's the right thing to do, and I would have done the same thing, and you would have done the same thing, and everybody in the right mind would have done the same thing, you don't know if Andrea Lee's holding a bit of resentment there, like, this used to happen all the time. It's our thing. It's our personal life. I didn't talk about it. Like, how often do you hear about these stories, and it's fucked up that it happens, but it's like the victim doesn't say anything. It's super strange. But yeah, you got to factor all that's going in her head. But then, the biggest thing here is that she struggles against wrestlers. She's a finesse fighter. She's a good kickboxer, good pedigree, good push kick, good sharp strikes, and she's decent off her back. She's got good submissions off her back. But Rose Clark just grinds this girl and holds her up against the cage. She can make it tough on her. Yep. And whereas people are going to say, listen, maybe that's a path to victory. Maybe she can use the size and just use that type of pace to just hold her up against the cage and secure some takedowns and, land the short strikes, land the short little elbows, land the short little knees. But how is that going to score for me? Well, two things there. First of all, she's only $7,000. And second of all, look how she scored against Beck Rawlings. Look how she scored against Paige Van Zandt. She makes that style work points-wise because she just keeps pushing the pace and pushing the pace and pushing the pace. And so Andrea Lee could have some trouble here. 245, not interested in the slightest bit. 9,200, most definitely not interested. Nope. And I think if you're just looking for value, plus 205 on Rose Clark is certainly tempting. And the $9,000, if you want to save money on a cash game where you think, even if this girl loses, I can get 3 rounds out of her, a couple takedowns, maybe she scores 30, 40 points, not that bad on a cash game. And if she does get the victory and she can score you 70, 80 points, she gets her value's worth, scores well for you, and frees up some good cap space. So I think we're on the same page there. As far as a lot of these favorites goes, yeah, they're favorites for a reason, but which dogs have a shot? Maybe Jim Miller. I'm not totally feeling it. Sergio Pettis, there's a shot there. You like Iaquinta, but I think we both can agree that Rose Clark has some upside there.
I think plus 250 Iaquinta is what is too wide.
Yeah. Like I said,
I don't know if I
should be the underdog.
Let it be known. I'm not going to make a play on Iaquinta, but because I think Kevin Lee wins, but I won't be playing on Kevin Lee either. It's basically a straight up pass. Maybe Kevin Lee on DraftKings.
Fair enough.
I'm all out of sorts, Cody. I'm all out of sorts.
That's why we got to get here and talk and send over the energy and figure out what's going down on Saturday.
Let's move on. We got Drakkar Klose taking on Bobby Green. Drakkar Klose, 9,300 on DraftKings, minus 250 favorite. Bobby Green, 6,900 plus 210. Two guys that are involved in incredibly close fights every single time. So you want to play Drakkar Klose, who his last time out, it was actually maybe his most convincing victory. But for the most part, this guy's just been in dicey decisions every single time. Yeah. Whether he wins or loses.
And almost all
Bobby Green, decisions. Same thing, man. He's coming off of it was the draw versus Venata, I believe is his last fight. I may be wrong, just off the top of my head here. These guys are involved in close fights, so it'll be a cold day in Missouri, as Abe Simpson would say. Before I'd lay minus 250 on a guy who fights these types of styles so close every single time. Like, I like Drakkar Klose. If this was closer to a pick'em again, I would be on board with him. But I could see Bobby Green holding up, you know, withstanding some of the takedowns and clinching and so on and so forth. And these two guys kind of circling around each other, not really landing all that much, and having a really, really close decision that we have no idea when it goes to the scorecards who's going to win. Like, that sounds like pretty much every Bobby Green fight I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that you pretty much just broke down Bobby Green. But you forgot one thing that you can almost guarantee. No, you can guarantee. You can guarantee one thing every Bobby Green fight. Every time a significant strike lands, he shakes his head. Didn't hit me. It's like, clearly hit
That didn't hurt.
Maybe it didn't hurt. I don't know. But it clearly
didn't
hit
hurt.
you.
Didn't hurt.
Yeah, I like Bobby Green.
I do
King Bobby.
too.
King Bobby is the competent version of Crazy Horse Bennett.
Yeah.
He's got the skills. He's got the athleticism. He can wrestle. You know, he can't really grapple for shit, but good enough. And his striking's exciting, and he's entertaining, and he's more of a character than an actual athlete. This guy's pulled out of 6 UFC fights. Like, you don't know where his commitment's at. There was that story.
Where his head's at. He's got a lot of personal issues.
But
and
you remember
stuff
that story
like
a couple years back? People thought he was his brother, so they were trying to kill him, and he was basically not training, just floating from, you know, homie's house to homie's house, sleeping on the couch, trying to avoid death. Bobby Green. The thing is though, when he actually fights, he shows up, man. Like, he's got that shoulder roll technique style. He's a slick counter puncher, you know, but he spends a lot of his time shaking his head at strikes that are landing. And that's why you just can't get behind him. Has he looked great in the UFC? He beat Josh Thompson. That was that big win. It was a split decision. Again, very close fight. And his last fight, he got the win over Eric Koch. But Eric Koch's a guy that's 1 foot out the door, don't really know where he's at. So it's hard to gauge where Bobby Green's at because there's so many of these spots, whether it's Dustin Poirier, whether it's Rashid Magomedov, whether it's, you know, any of the top guys that Bobby Green's fought, he actually gives them a tough go. In the Lando Venata fight, probably a 10-8 first round. Like, he got messed up bad in the first round. The second and third round, he finds his rhythm. He gets going. I'm a little bit concerned there because with Jack or Close, he's looked actually, like you said, a lot of close fights. But where's the one that stands out that is like, okay, well, you got to look at his one loss, and it's David Taymor. David Taymor is just a little bit of a slicker striker, hangs out on the outside, and just beat him to the punch, landed the better punches. Could Bobby Green do that? I suppose so, but I think Jack or Close just outworks him. I really do. I think one strike that could play a key factor is the fact that Drakkar Klose is one of these MMA lab guys in Arizona. And all these MMA lab guys, they go that low calf kick. That low calf kick, it's not quite a leg kick. Well, it is a leg kick, but it gets you in the calf. And basically just, it takes away your mobility.
What about your boy T. Edwards? He really lived up to the hype fighting out of that gym.
I bet against it. Well, remember I said, listen, this guy just relies on his punching.
That's why I called him your boy.
It was your boy. You were like, he looks like a really exciting prospect.
Let's not get caught up in the past.
I said fake Tyron Woodley relies too much on his one-punch power, not enough on his wrestling. All jokes aside, though, Drakkar Klose, if he just goes with the low calf kick, which he's been known to throw out, he's going to rack up points on the scorecard because Bobby Green is not going to throw enough punches. He's just going to outpoint him. He's going to get close rounds if they are close rounds. But I think they're going to be fairly obvious rounds that Drakkar Klose is winning. But over time, it's just going to take an effect, or Bobby Green's not going to be able to move that well laterally. And he's a guy that moves a lot. So without that, he's going to be stationary. He's going to rely solely on the shoulder roll. And there's a reason why there's very few guys that use the shoulder roll in MMA. It just leaves you way too exposed with the small gloves. Eventually, over time, he will get caught. He will get pieced up. Drakkar Klose is a better wrestler. Maybe he's going to grind him a little bit up against the cage. I think he gets the job done. I don't think he's going to score a ton. 9,300 on DraftKings is a little bit crazy considering this guy's kind of made a name for himself as a decision machine. And Bobby Green's proven to be, you know, slick and durable. So I would definitely not play the 9,300. But the 250, I like the 250 way better than Andrea Lee's 245. I like the 250 better than I like Dwight Grant's 300. I like the 250 probably better than I like Charles Oliveira's 320. So as far as a straight money line goes, it's better than some of these other ones. So I'm going to go Drakkar Klose for the decision. And if I want the extra value, I will take the decision. I think he hasn't proven at a high level to be enough of a finisher to catch Bobby Green, who's susceptible to getting caught against better guys than this. Like, you're not Dustin Poirier, bud. So, I don't know. They're just my thoughts.
Jared Gordon taking on Joaquim Silva. Jared Gordon, 8,600 on DraftKings, minus 150 favorite. Silva is 7,600 and plus 130. What's your take here?
Yeah, you know what? I'm a Jared Gordon guy through and through, and I'm 100% playing him here. And I know that a lot of I don't want him to be a must. I got
like
a lot of guys are
burned.
Jeez,
I had him all over, and like he was taking on CDF, and CDF is a stud. And we talked about how CDF is a stud last week, and he put on a hell of a performance. Good on him. Well, actually, round 1 was really bad for him, but he started to take over against Kyle Nelson after
Yeah,
that.
I had like a mini heart attack there because obviously I was talking him up that he was going to not only get the win, but get the inside the victory finish. And yeah, he got booted in the mouth. I was like, how does this shit always happen, right?
Yeah.
But don't you worry, because when your ground game is that much better than the next guy, falling down onto your ass is not that big of a deal. The other guy will just let you get back up, clear the cobwebs, you'll be okay. No, you're right. It's not that he burnt me and he burnt you, but it wasn't that it was a burn. It wasn't like, oh shit, this guy lost to Michelle Quinones. Oh shit, Hakran Diaz, who's, a remote top level guy. It's like, you didn't burn me, dude. You just fought a guy that's a bona fide stud, 2 years off because of USADA, didn't really know what to expect from him. Turns out, pretty good.
Same guy still.
Yeah. Same guy, probably a little bit sharper on his stand-up technique. And he caught Jared Gordon and he puts him down. That always makes me worry a little bit. I love Jared Gordon. I love Shane Burgos because they're just forward the entire time. If they're down on rounds, you know that they have the ability to finish. They just keep coming forward. But both of these guys showing that style of just moving forward, it leads to being able to get caught. When you get caught, your opponent can capitalize. It makes you wonder. I just don't know that Joaquim Silva is going to be the guy that's going to capitalize here, quite frankly. I think Jared Gordon's probably better in every one area.
And he puts on a pace.
And that's,
he is in your face. He is landing takedowns. See, when you get back up, he's taking you back down again. He's holding you up against the cage. The cardio he has is his biggest advantage. Like this guy just puts it on you, and he's not getting knocked out in round 1 against CDF, he is a potent DraftKings guy. Like he can break this slate.
Yeah, no, listen, and I've always said this is Cody's theory. Been going on for a long time, but prove me wrong on this one. But the key to infinite cardio in MMA is to die from a heroin overdose and then be revived. Bear with me on this.
Well, I know where you're going.
Because I have mentioned it multiple times. The notable death victims from heroin overdoses in the UFC include Matt the Immortal Brown, who shows no signs of slowing down. Court McGee, does this guy have an off switch? And of course, Jared Gordon. Oh my God. The one exception, Ian McCall has been known to gas from time to time, but I figured it out. See, in order to get the infinite success with the cardio, you have to die from a heroin overdose and then physically actually quit drugs altogether when you are revived. The 3 guys there, Matt Brown, Court McGee, Jared Gordon, not on the smack anymore. Ian McCall, not so sure. So, yeah, he just goes on for days and days and days. And I think when you look at, like, say, the Hakran Diaz fight, it's like, oh, dude, here's a block belt, here's a tough grappler. It's like Jared Gordon pushes a pace on you that he will break down guys that even that's their game plan. Catching him, yeah, that's an issue. Maybe guys that are better strikers are going to be able to. Ferrera's a 3rd-degree black belt. So, yeah, he's styling on, brown belt, John Danaher brown belt, Jared Gordon on the ground, but it's like, yeah, this guy's going to do that to a lot of guys. He just did the same thing more or less to Obey Mercier, who is a black belt. Yep. So I don't think it's a grappling issue. Nito BJJ Joaquim Silva, nicknames Nito BJJ, but not a takedown guy. 1 takedown in his UFC, attempted 1 takedown so far in his UFC career. Doesn't really appear to have many submissions. He's a stand-up guy. Jared Gordon, I don't want him to be in a stand-up battle, but he's just going to be in a stand-up battle long enough to get a hold of this guy, to rip him to the ground. Vince Pichel out-muscled him on the ground, got the victory. I think Jared Gordon is the same thing. Takes him to the ground, out-muscles him, and then just uses that relentlessness to just score points. $8,600, sign me up. $150, sign me up.
Yep.
I like Jared Gordon. Again,
the line's actually been moving the other way, though,
everybody
recently.
Seems to be on Gordon, yet money's coming in on the other side.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be a mush play. And coming off a fight where you got flat dropped like that, a little bit worrisome. But I think this is them building him back up and saying, well, here's a very winnable fight for you where your style should overcome his and you should be able to get the win and move forward in your career. So he spent some time at Rufus Sport too, I think. So maybe worth noting.
I do. He's been training out of that gym since basically his loss.
Right.
So he lost. He got dropped. He was just like, I got to change something up. Goes out to Rufus Sports. So yeah,
and being out there with guys
hometown fight, I guess you can call it for him. I do worry about his durability, but I think this is a get right spot for him.
Here's a little bit of tinfoil hat theory for you.
Okay, I love it.
Tinfoil hat theory for you, Paul. Haven't done this in a while, but here's a greasy theory. Small commissions, right? Small commissions is like a small family. Whereas big commissions, this is a big family. In California, let's say you work for the California Commission. Geez, we got this boxing event, we got this kickboxing event, we got this small MMA event, we got this big MMA event, we got this amateur MMA event. You deal with so many different people. There's very little bit of, you're not very personal with anybody. But a small commission, especially a small commission like a Milwaukee commission, when they go do kickboxing on these weekend smoker shows, it's all the Rufus Sport guys. It's Scott Cushman predominantly, and all Rufus Sport guys. The MMA, the local MMA shows there, few and far between, all Rufus Sport guys. All of this is always Rufus Sport guys. They deal with Duke Rufus and Scott Cushman all the time. So now when you have a fight where maybe it is close, where Jared Gordon's taking on this Brazilian Joaquim Silva, the commission guy, who wouldn't consider these guys friends, but sees them once a week, every single week, the crowd, the favoritism, if it is a close fight, that's why it's home cooking, especially in a place like Milwaukee where you're not going to piss off the guy you're going to see next week. You're going to screw the Brazilian guy here who's getting brought in to lose to the Rufus Sport guy for a reason in close rounds. I think Gordon probably thrashes him and it's not close rounds, but it's just a little extra X factor there. It's that, you know what I mean? Cushman, they didn't hide a death, but they had a kickboxer die and the same commission oversaw it. No charges laid for anybody. So if it's a close fight, Jared Gordon's getting the decision. And if it's not a close fight, Jared Gordon's getting the stoppage. So I got Jared Gordon.
Yeah, same here. Let's move on. We got Jack Hermansson taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Hermansson 8,800 minus 185. Meerschaert 7,400 plus 160. Who you got?
Yeah, if you're gonna import a strange country fighter, not strange country, it's Sweden, it's Brazil. I'm saying if you're gonna import a guy to come in and lose to the local Milwaukee guy, like we literally just talked about, don't bring over Jack Hermansson.
No,
that's not a can opponent. That's not somebody you bring in to fire up the crowd because he's chinny. Hermansson checks out, man. His striking's a little bit more refined and I think better than Gerald Meerschaert. Meerschaert might have the pure grappling advantage, but I don't know that he's got the wrestling to take Hermansson down. No. And Hermansson has proven, above that he can wrestle, especially for a Swedish guy, he can wrestle. Good, sharp technical striker. Man, breaking your collarbone or whatever against Talis Latis, finding a way to win, reversing position, well, not reversing position, but getting out of the submission that he obviously overcommitted to against a high-level black belt like Latis. This guy's got heart. He's going to go for it. I don't see the fight hitting the ground. I feel it's going to stand up. And if it is, I think that Jack Hermansson's going to just be the cleaner of the strikers. So give me Jack Hermansson. I don't hate Gerald Meerschaert. I really don't. But
he's in high volume fights. Like DraftKings wise, the scoring of all of his fights are very high because he either goes out there and squashes guys or he gets squashed. Like there's no real middle ground.
Well, this is what I find for like why he's scoring these big scores is that he'll go in there. Notably, let's go 2 fights ago, where it's the Eric Spicely fight. Eric Spicely comes out there, should try to grapple this guy, should do all those things. And he just survives long enough that Eric Spicely is going to just go kaboom on himself. And he lands that body kick, puts him down. The next fight, he's Oscar Pichota. You know, it's the same thing. The fight with Joe Gigliotti, it's the same thing. He relies heavily on his opponent coming in, giving him a hell. Outside of him fighting Thiago Santos, he can handle that early hell, and then you tire out, and he takes advantage.
Yeah. Hermansson doesn't play that game.
Not going to
he doesn't get tired.
So I see all that early adversity for him still happening. Only that late rally comeback that he scores all those big points on, not there because Hermansson doesn't give him the chance. So give me Jack the Joker.
Dan Ige takes on Jordan Griffin. We have Dan Ige is 8,500 on DraftKings minus 170 favorite. Griffin 7,700 plus 150. Your take?
Yeah. See, if you're gonna buy into the theory of close fight and the home cooking and the Rufus Sport guys, then Jordan Griffin's your play here, man. He's plus 150. He's got the tools to beat Dan Ige. And again, I think as far as the line goes, this is a very close fight on this card, and it should probably play out to be a relatively close fight. So if you can get the dog and maybe bank on some of that home cooking, then Jordan Griffin's not the worst play. I don't mind Dan Ige because he has the grappling advantage, but I mean, Jordan Griffin's got like a big reach advantage on him. He's probably a little more technical. He's more technical standing, giving up a little bit of power, but he's the better kickboxer, let's say. And with Ige, he wins his fight on Dana White's Contender Series and, you know, looks good. But his first fight against Julio Arce, he can't get takedowns.
No.
And when he can't get takedowns against a superior kickboxer,
kind of looks lost.
He gets straight pieced up. Now, he follows off that loss, his UFC debut, beating Mike Santiago, but he caught Santiago 50 seconds into the first round. So Griffin's got like 20 pro fights at this point. He's a seasoned guy. Again, Rufus Sport is a finisher, better kickboxer, little bit loopy, little bit brawly, little bit run after you instead of cutting angles, and maybe that'll lead to him getting taken down by Ige. And if he does get taken down, I think he's in trouble. But again, if you're going to go with a lot of the favorites on this card, and clearly I have taken a good amount of favorites on this card.
I haven't really went. I don't really like a lot of the favorites on this.
No, I mean, yeah, you could have big, big value here in that there's a lot of dogs with a shot, but I think a lot of the same things I was saying with Griffin in the Pettis fight. Only Pettis is getting a striker and Griffin's getting more of a grappler. It's that you can, if he just does the damage standing, then even if he does get taken down and it's considered a close round, I think he gets it. And if he gets, you probably don't want to bet this fight. It's gonna be way too close. And I don't really see a finish materializing on both sides. Ige 8,500, if you think he could get a submission, maybe. But I don't really see it. I think Griffin's savvy enough that he's able to last the 15 minutes. And as far as Griffin goes, I think he's got to piece this guy up. Again, not get the finish, but piece him up. 7,700, not the worst price in the world, but preferably just a small play on the dog here as money line. Again, another dog or pass situation. But if you just want to look at it as far as being smart goes, unless you got an inside scoop, looks like it's going to be a pretty close fight, Paul.
Agreed. We got Adam Milstead taking on Mike Rodriguez. Adam Milstead, 8,700, minus 155. Mike Rodriguez, 7,500 and plus 135. Adam Milstead opened up near like minus 200, and obviously money has come in.
He's Adam Milstead.
Yeah, it's just like the two of them. The two of these guys, like Mike Rodriguez, obviously got taken down, controlled, wrestled against Devin Clark, lost that fight pretty soundly. So we know that there's the holes in his game. Has Adam Milstead got the wrestling chops, the pace, and the grind to do that? I don't really think so. I think this will be Mike Rodriguez winning a relatively clear decision on the feet, and plus 135, you could do a lot worse.
Yeah, see, I would love to take the play on Milstead, 8,700 DraftKings, no chance. But yeah, you almost get the impression that he maybe should be the dog in this situation. Has not looked good in his UFC tenure. Beat Chris Del Rocco, who cares? And obviously Curtis Blades, he blew out his knee, then lost. Then Blades was had during the fight, so we got a no contest out of that. And I don't know, man. Against Jordan Johnson at 205, he certainly looks better. But I think he's got the tools. Maybe not the tools, but his style is grinding, hard worker, Ohio, blue-collar style. He's known as Stipe Miocic's training partner. Maybe had some success with him in the gym. I don't know why he was competing at 205 or at 265 heavyweight, based on the fact that he's so small for the division. But at 205, yeah, look good on the scales. He's got that forward mentality, that, close the pocket, close the distance, swing big strikes. Keep pushing a pace. And that might be all you need to beat a guy like Mike Rodriguez. Mike Rodriguez is a finishing machine. He finishes most of his fights in the first round. And when he doesn't finish the fight in the first round, one has to assume that that's based on your style. You're going to get tired. His last fight, yeah, the takedown was a lot more of a play in there. And he's going to come into this fight with a 6-fight reach advantage. So I see a lot of the people that are talking about Mike Rodriguez talking about the fact that because he's going to have that 6-inch reach advantage, he'll stay on the outside. Milstead doesn't cut great angles. Milstead will chase him, and yet he's going to get picked off at range. And honestly, I don't doubt that. The only problem there is that Milstead's tough enough to get through the first round. And when Rodriguez is spending the whole first round on his back foot, intercepting this guy with your long strikes, it's tiring. And in the second and third round, I think Milstead's going to be able to keep on going, whereas I'm not 100% sold on Rodriguez. So yeah, if Milstead was the dog, 155, considering it came down from 2 to 1, really isn't that bad. I think he could get the victory. The 8,700, again, I'm not feeling it, but if he finishes him in the second or third round, you could get your value out of it. But yeah, official pick Adam Milstead. And yeah, and until Rodriguez can prove that he can spend 15 minutes backpedaling and sniping this guy off at range, then I'm not going to buy too much into the reach advantage. We've
got Zach Cummings taking on Trevor Smith. Zach Cummings, 9,100 DraftKings and a minus 320 favorite. Trevor Smith is 7,100 and plus 260. Cummings coming off of a loss at 170 to Michel Prazeres, a former 155-pounder. This fight is at middleweight. So finally, we've been saying for a long time, Zach Cummings is massive for 170. He's taking the load off a little bit, not going to cut those extra
fought
15.
At 85 and 2.
I know he has, but what I'm saying is
this
that
is good for him.
170, he was way too, like, he was so big. He was so big. It was crazy that he was even making that weight class. But I'm going to play. We haven't played this game in a while. You know, I've always loved Zach Cummings. Zach Cummings has always been one of my guys. But facts are facts here. Let's go through the wins on Zach Cummings' record. Nathan Coy.
Cut from the UFC.
Alexander Yakovlev. Nicholas Dalby.
Booze bag.
Dominique Steele.
Just won in Canada last week.
Jan Cabral.
Oh.
Benny Alloway.
Big time. That was his 70 debut, I think.
Nobody's ever beat is still on the UFC roster.
Yeah, which is a big issue.
I like him, and I've made money on him in the past. I feel like he's getting kind of old. He's getting slower, and
probably why he's going up to 85.
And he probably struggles to cut to an extent. Trevor Hotshot-Smith is a guy that you usually fade in this game, but and he's usually a big underdog, and I think he loses this fight, but minus 320, 9,100, I ain't feeling it, bro.
Yeah,
this is a stay away. This is a stay away for me if there was ever a stay away.
I hate to agree with you on so many fights, but yeah, I think the price tag is very, you know,
I am not betting on Trevor Smith. Don't get me wrong here. I just think like
no, I know.
I think it could just be way closer, and like I'm not gonna sweat hard on a guy like Zach Cummings who's minus 320. Like
I think
in
it's
this
just,
type of fight,
it's definitely it's a
where he
tough
doesn't have a
spot.
size advantage. He's had a size advantage in just about every single fight, at least recent fight.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Basically, is that he's made a mark in the UFC's 170 division because he's a big, strong guy that's got, you know, durability, good grinding style, and he's got the size. So he fights these other 170s, he makes it a dirty fight, and he grinds on them. We've talked about a lot of fighters on this card, that same style, and it has success, and that's how he kind of made a success. The sharper, more technical fighters, the Gunnar Nelsons, the Michel Prazeres of the world, they're going to beat him, right? Because they have a clear advantage, whether it be on the ground or whether it be striking, and certainly in Prazeres' case, his last fight, yeah, the guy's real strong. Who cares he's coming up from 55? Couldn't really make 55 to begin with, so it makes sense. Now you're going from being that bigger, stronger, grinding type fighter to moving up to 185 and essentially taking on yourself with a shittier chin, which is Trevor Smith. Trevor Smith is a big, grinding style fighter. But Trevor Smith's problem is that he's been knocked down in under 2 minutes like 4 times in his career. His chin doesn't necessarily check out. Yeah, against Elias Theodorou, he doesn't have to worry about getting hit in the face. So you can kind of have closer fights. But eventually, if you can keep the fight standing, keep this guy at range, and chin check him, you can get the victory. And as much as Cummings is not really a power puncher, he did the exact same thing against Dominic Steele, who's another one of these, on paper, chinny guys. Dominic Steele, very similar to Trevor Smith in the sense that he's got like 4 knockouts on his record that are all under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
He gets hit early. And that's Smith's problem. So I honestly think with Zach Cummings at 185 might be a little bit faster because he's not going to draw himself out as much. He's not going to be taking on these smaller, quicker athletes. He's going to be taking on slow, plodding Trevor Smith. Now, the takedown might not be there for either guy. It's going to be hard to take down Trevor Smith. He's a guy that wrestled collegiately, and he's a big, grinding type fighter. It's going to be hard to take down Zach Cummings, training out of with those Kansas guys at Glory MMA. You know, that's his style as well. So you got a bit of a striking battle here, and I think that Cummings is the better striker, lands something, could knock him out. The 320, I'm not interested. The $9,100, geez, if this was like 87, which would still be overpriced, 88, still overpriced, I'd be willing to take a small poke because Trevor Smith has shown in the past that you can knock this guy out and score big on him. But 9,100, that's a big price tag for a guy that's moving up a weight class, lost his last fight, did not look thrilled to be there his last fight, did not look like he had that extra, you know, step. But maybe at 185, he'll get that back. I don't know. It's important to note that I think his last fight at 185 was when he lost on The Ultimate Fighter to Dylan fucking Andrews. So is he good at 185? I don't know. Certainly not great at 185. The biggest win of his career is Jan Cabral, who's a 55er that was fighting at 170, and it was a close fight, and that guy's no longer with the organization. So I think you nailed it. This guy's not as good as everybody's saying. He's moving up a weight class. He's coming off a loss. He's getting a little bit older. He's getting a little bit slower. And Smith's been all those things for years, and he still has a job with the UFC. He's learned to adapt to his shitty chin. He's learned to adapt to the fact that he doesn't have a great striking game. He's learned to adapt. Cummings, we haven't seen that yet, so 320 is a bold price. 9,100, a little too much, but I could see Zach Cummings starting him, and the official pick, if it was a 50-50, would obviously be Zach Cummings.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. And finally, we got Juan Adams taking on Chris De La Roca. Juan Adams is 9,500, a minus 440 favorite. Chris De La Roca is 6,700 and plus 350. Facts are facts. All right, we got Juan Adams. He's 4-0. He does what he's going to do on Dana White Contenders Series. Gets the first round knockout, has a nice interview. Right. People kind of like the look. They like the gimmick. That's cool, but he's still a 4-0 fighter. Luckily for him, he's taking on Chris De La Roca, who we actually were here telling you guys, take De La Roca against Rashad Coulter. We told you. We saw it. We saw it. If you have two crappy fighters in the heavyweight division, take the underdog, right?
Fair enough.
But this seems like they were like, hey, we need more heavyweight prospects. This guy, Juan Adams, kind of seems like a gentle giant type of guy from the interviews and stuff that I had seen from him. He's got the look. He looks like an absolute.
He's massive.
He looks like an absolute maniac. He's like 6'5", 265. Like he's
Cuts
a
to 265.
proper heavyweight.
Huge.
Proper heavyweight. I think he smashes him. I think he smashes Chris De La Roca. De La Roca, if you can put the heat on him, he's not coming back. Milstead was able to put him away. Danny O, first round knockout. Danny O doesn't knock out anybody. Juan Adams gets a first round knockout.
Both of his hands down, overhand right. It was like,
I'm
he
paying.
got dropped twice before he got knocked out.
I'm paying up for Juan Adams. That's the expensive guy I'm going for on DraftKings, 9,500. Minus 440. I don't really want to trust a 4-0 heavyweight that we don't really know all that much about.
Yeah.
With my money, I won't be parlaying this guy up or anything, but on DraftKings, 9,500, he's going to be the stud I turn to here, and I'm hoping for a first-round knockout. That's just the way it is.
The move would be if you were able to get him at 375 when he opened, but
if he busts out, then I just go on to the televised slates. I'm just kidding.
No,
you shouldn't probably chase, but you'll know if your DraftKings night is going
the very first fight.
Yeah, you know if your night is going which direction it's going in. Based on the first fight.
There's
instant gratification, Cody. That's what I'm all about.
There's been certain first fight on the cards where you got the guy everywhere. And this is a case where 440 puts him as the biggest favorite on the card, but you're not going to have him everywhere.
No.
Because he is still a middling heavyweight.
Yep.
But I'm going to take my lesson learned in this one where you don't fade these guys, very fadeable, but you don't fade them while they're fighting this level of competition.
Agreed.
In many ways, I'm going to compare this guy almost to my new Tai Tuivasa. Juan Adams had his first amateur fight 2 years ago. He went 4-0 as an amateur and went 4-0 as a professional. He finishes pretty much everybody. He's gigantic. He's got obviously a massive amount of power, but he finishes all of his fights real early. Just like Tai Tuivasa. There's an athletic guy who's gigantic who finishes all of his opponents very early. So if you're going to fade him, you're going to fade the fact that someone's got to get him out of those early rounds and kind of take advantage of that a little bit later. When he was fighting Rashad Coulter, when he was fighting Cyril Asker, these guys aren't getting him out of the first round, but eventually somebody will. This is, to me, the exact same case. Chris De La Roca, there's almost nothing that you can be gained here. You brought him in to lose in Poland to Daniel Malanchuk. He did his job. You used him a second time because Adam Milstead had a little bit of hype, and the guy's not a big heavyweight. We need a shit heavyweight that he can get a win over. And Chris De La Roca does the job. Now, surely he's going to get cut, but they give him the other worst guy in the division, and he gets the win over him. But now they're giving him to a full-fledged prospect. And if Juan Adams doesn't finish De La Roca in the first round, De La Roca's a brown belt in BJJ. He's obviously got the win over Coulter. He got a win over DJ Linderman as well. People thought he was chinning because Daniel Malanchuk blasted him, but he took some big shots against Coulter and, came back. If he takes those same big shots, lasts the first round, Juan Adams could be in trouble.
It's true.
But I just don't know that he's A, going to take those shots, and B, he's
either.
going to be really shot-worn in that second round, coming back out. And the last thing, you're banking on the fact that the guy's going to gas simply because all of his finishes are quick. He's never.
But maybe his gas tank is better than we think it is.
Yeah, well, he's so big that you would assume that he's going to gas out after 5, but against De La Rocha, just not the right opponent. So the 9,500 is crazy. Like I said, money line 375 was great. 440 starting to get a little steep. 9,500 is crazy, but if you're playing a GPP and you want to almost guarantee yourself a guy that is going to go out there and there's a high probability of him getting that first round finish, you're going to pay up. I just see it as, 95 for him is expensive. 91 for Cummings is expensive. 93 for Dracker Close. 94 for Dwight Grant. That's why finding those Jack Hermansson 88 at a Milstead,
Adams is the best guy I feel about way up there. It's just that he's gonna go out there. I know what I'm gonna get. He's gonna go. He's gonna try to smash. He's gonna try to get that first round finish bonus. And if he doesn't, I'm screwed. But that's all I want these guys to go out and do. The other people, there's so many questions. Like maybe Drakkar Close is always in really low scoring affairs where he does a lot of cage work, holds people up against the cage. He's more of a point fighter. He's the type of guy that, you feel better having him on a parlay type of situation. Juan Adams is going out there to kill.
You don't want Juan Adams on parlays.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so then my last point on it is just my mentality on it. Is that, I like Juan Adams at 9,500. But for $500 less, I could take Kevin Lee, who's going to be able to...
take both.
Yeah, well, depending on your other plays.
Depending on your build, but...
the only reason I like it more is, like we're saying with Juan Adams, well, what if Chris De La Rocha survives and then he's got that puncher's chance? Well, that's the same thing with Iaquinta. Only at 55, it's going to be less of a puncher's chance. Iaquinta won't gas, or Lee won't gas out after one single round, and he's got 5 rounds to work with. So he could score a lot more than Juan Adams, even if Juan Adams gets the first round.
Yeah, but you can fit both of them into your roster.
Yeah, especially if you end up going. If you take Mike Rodriguez, who could finish big, you like him, he could finish big, and a Jesse Rose Clark.
You can build around that, and you probably still get Jared Gordon in there.
This is well, now you're giving them away too juicy of lineups, Paul. I'm kidding. This is a card.
I basically spelled out my lineup.
You can construct many good lineups with this card in these.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun night of fights for sure.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts there, bud?
No, that's about it. Last weekend's card, Toronto, pretty good. Thank you for talking some sense into me on the Holloway Ortega. Although there's a lot of people talking shit online like Ortega supporters are idiots. It's like, nah, man. They went with the fact that they thought this brain injury was an issue.
Yeah, it was bullshit.
You were so behind the point that it wasn't an issue that I don't love overanalyzing weigh-ins, but yeah, you just see from the weigh-ins, it was like, this guy's
kid's completely fine.
Yeah, all the stupid
completely
interviews.
Fine, and I think
right from the beginning of the week, you're like, he's mumbling his words. It's like, dog, he's always talked like that.
No, he's always talked like that. And I think Ortega...
Right. I appreciate that one.
I think Ortega... saying I couldn't even get a straight answer at him. He probably went up. He's like, "Are you okay? Is everything gonna be okay?" And Max is just like, "Yes."
Max is probably just like, "Oh yeah, man, we just
yeah, exactly."
He's just like, "Well, this guy,
I couldn't even understand anything he was saying.
No idea what he was saying." Not only was he punch drunk, because his entire corner team appeared to be.
It was a hell of a performance.
Yeah, no, that was awesome.
Max Holloway, that guy is the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah. Every single Max Holloway fight is a fight I'll be tuning in to.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that much.
And then the card was otherwise good. Don't know why. I really feel the need to address this because it was a big blunder on my part.
Laprise?
No, fuck Laprise. Chad Laprise got a bad chin. Avoided that one, which I was very thankful that I did. But I got the Nina Ansarov one wrong. And traditionally, I've been great on Ansarov. And we sat and we talked about the fact that
you are no longer the Ansarov whisperer. I will not be playing that gimmick next time around.
And that's what I'm getting at here, is that
it's over.
Yeah, we talked about the fact that better striker, if he stays standing, she's just going to outpoint her. But Gadella had the ground advantage. If she just stuck to an actual game plan and grounded her opponent, which she did not, Claudia Gadelha has proven to have very little ring IQ. She's not the same type of fighter she used to be. I'm officially labeling her untrustworthy. Yeah. To the extent, Paul, I would probably prefer Bernie Madoff to do my taxes. I would probably prefer Michael J. Fox to give me a tattoo. I trust more. I trust more taking farts when I'm sick than I trust Claudia Gadelha. And you do not want to trust a fart when you are sick. Believe me. Claudia Gadelha, it's all over. She's female Henan Barrow, which she kind of always seemed like, but it's only going to get worse from here, Paul, because we used to joke around with Henan Barrow. It's like, oh, well, he's totally shot, but he's...
And then he lost to Andre Ewell, and it's just like, all right, he is gone.
Yeah, because at least with Brian Kelleher, it's like, well, maybe just Kelleher is better than we thought. It's like, He went from fighting world champions to getting soundly dismantled by guys that are a couple fights into their UFC career.
It's a harsh game.
Yeah, it is a harsh game, but I normally have Ansaroff. I saw the path to victory, and I thought that Gadella had one more in her, but she is extremely untrustworthy. That's about all I got to say there.
It is over for her. It is over for us. We're going to wrap up the show here. Thank you to Cody Saftic for breaking down the fights with me, as always. Thank you to Chad Dow for doing all the sweet work behind the scenes here. For both of those guys, I am Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Mayo experience. Experience.